Welcome everybody to episode 19 of Katawa Shoujo. I'm Burning Oil. Last episode, things got naughty in Hokkaido. Things got horny in Hokkaido. Yeah, and I had to censor quite a lot of it out. I hope it didn't ruin the experience too much. I had to I could have put text over it, but there was so much, and I didn't have much time to do it in. So, but I hope my narration was good enough for you guys. Yeah, but let's get straight back into it, shall we? We just started Act 4, so the title of this video is probably going to be Act 4. We are going back to Yamaku Academy. Slow steps for a waltz. After the excitement of our trip to Hokkaido, it seems strange to be right back to the usual daily routine so soon. Indeed, it feels like a normal day, the same as any other. Well, that's what I'd like to think anyway. To tell the truth, the atmosphere of the entire school has changed. While an undercurrent of subdued trepidation has previously pervaded the class, now that the exams are in sight, it's boiled over into frantic studying rarely seen otherwise. One day until exams start. What? It's one day until exams start. It's horrific, really, that instead of studying, we went and wasted our time up north. We were such model students, too. Glancing around the class, even the bubbly, ever-energetic Misha seems oddly deflated. She sits at her desk, nervously chewing a pen while Mutu lectures from the front of the desk. Wait, on closer inspection, I do believe she's eating it. Tearing my eyes from the sorry spectacle, I turn my attention elsewhere. Hanako sits frantically scribbling in her notebook, her face mere inches away from the page, seemingly trying to record every word that leaves Mutu's mouth. Shizune's, well, Shizune. Cool as a cucumber, she sits diligently, taking notes with her attention wholly focused on the front of the class. Truth be told, it's what I should be doing as well, if not for the fact that I feel like I have a pretty good handle on what's being covered already. Wonder how Lily's doing. While she does have a good head on her, she has plenty on her plate, unlike me. Her class representative duties, taking care of Hanako, her other social contacts, her extra English studies, that girl really does take on a lot. The lunchtime bell rings a sigh of relief from the entire class, Mutu being no exception. I get the feeling he much prefers the more laid-back atmosphere of his normal classes to the frantic pace of exam preparation we're subjected to right now. Hee-chan! Help me! I lower my eyelids to half-mast, making clear my intention of doing quite the opposite. Help me, help me, help me! Not going well? Hee-chan's going to be fine, but I think I might die! Am I going to die, Hee-chan? Will you let me die from all this work? How maudlin. Given that she's neither the brightest student in the class nor the most diligent, it isn't a great surprise that she's finding it hard to cope with the workload. Sorry, Misha, but I've got my own work to do. I thought you and Shizune would be studying together over the long weekend anyway. Studying's too boring to waste on holiday, Hee-chan. Shopping together was much more fun, wasn't it, Hee-chan? It's only now that I realize Shizune's been looking over to us, and that Misha's arms have been moving likely all this time. I must be really zoned out to have not noticed. What is it with girls and shopping, anyway? Even Lily and Hanako have dragged me out with them a couple of times. But you went anyway. It's so rare to see a guy that likes shopping. Well, my role would probably be best described as pack mule. I can't say I share your enthusiasm about the experience. Back to the exams. You studied after you got back from the days off, didn't you, Shizune? Of course, Hee-chan. It's only sensible to study in the days before. Misha makes a sound vaguely similar to a dying cow as she realizes her folly and unceremoniously flops onto her desk, betrayed even by her best friend. Judging from Shizune's quite frustrated look at Misha, she probably told her to study as she did. Don't worry, you can still gain some grades if you start studying now. Maybe. Misha does not seem overly amused. It seems the bubbly balloon of everlasting cheerfulness has been cruelly popped. Shizune's signing goes unnoticed by the moping Misha, earning her a quick poke in the shoulder. It takes barely a moment for Misha to get back into form. So what did you do over the weekend, Hichan? Just took a trip up north with Lily and Haneke. It was pretty nice. I see both of them narrowing their eyes at me, their minds surely in the gutter. The fact that their suspicions are founded makes the situation all more awkward. We just studied and went sightseeing. There's nothing more to it. After such a flagrant lie, I realized that it may not have been the best step, considering Shizune's connections and her total lack of restraint when it comes to questioning someone she suspects of telling untruths. I really have no idea how she's going to take it, but she'll find out eventually anyway. It isn't as if it's really her business who I date in any case. No, it's not. And yes, Lily and I are going out now. While Misha receives the news with an enthusiastic smile, Shizune gives a look of mild surprise somewhat masked by her cool demeanour. Whoever you date is your business. Hope you two go well together. Misha gives a look that says this is the most quarter I could possibly receive on the matter. It's all I wanted, really. As she says this, though, Shizune begins to sign something else and stops herself and shakes her head at Misha to prevent her from translating. Normally I'd think this strange enough, but the awkwardly casual wave Shizune gives before walking off with Misha in tow adds to my confusion. Shizune is hardly the kind of person to pull a punch or communicate without forethought. I shrug my shoulders at the duo's odd behaviour and look towards Haneke's desk, but see that her chair's empty. She was definitely here before, so I guess she just didn't feel like waiting. I'll go grab some food alone then. Walking down the hallway to the unused room that's become a second home to 3 students in particular, I mournfully look down at the plastic-wrapped salad roll and juice box in my hand. The cafeteria's food really is unappetizing. Maybe I'll consider this my penance for my recent indiscretions. Opening the door, I notice one less quiet figure than I'd expected. Yay! It's strange. Despite having known Lily for months, I can't help thinking back to the very first time I opened this door and saw her silently sitting in the sunlight. Just as she did then, she slowly opens her eyes, unmoving as they are, and calmly addresses me. Good morning, Hisao. It's afternoon, I think. Has Haneke been around? She's skidded out of class but without me even noticing. Lily cradles her cheek thoughtfully as I take a seat, my bag taking its place against the closest leg of the table, and my unsatisfying meal neatly set out in front of me. She did appear for a time. She said she had to study for the upcoming exams, and left for the library. We found ourselves not entirely believing her words. I find myself, well, at least our intentions are in the right place. She is sweet, but she needn't go this far to let us have our space. I might talk to her about it sometime. Probably for the best. For a while we quietly eat our meals, Lily elegantly nibbling on her sandwiches and sipping her tea as I eat what tastes like a garden sandwich in dry dough. The atmosphere feels slightly restrained. Neither of us know quite what to say to each other now that our small talk has dried up. Eventually we both finish our food, with no conversation forthcoming for quite some time. Eventually, though, Lily's soft voice breaks the silence. A lot has happened back there. A lot happened back there, didn't it? Again, silence. With our minds on the same topic, though, I think I have my feelings on that sorted. I know everything happened in kind of a hurry, but I don't regret anything that happened in Hokkaido. Not one thing. Hisao? Slightly tensed, I take her hand in mine. Have to feel her, have to settle my own nerves. I stand by my words back there, Lily. I love you, and I won't leave you. I only wish for you to think the same. She silently reflects for a long time, which feels like an eternity. Her reverie comes to an end as she takes one hand from mine, placing it over them as she leans her body forwards and stands out of her chair. After a moment's hesitation, her face slightly pensive, her lips meet mine for a brief moment. My mind feels as if it briefly stopped at that moment, barely registering Lily sitting back in her chair and smiling at me with ever so slightly reddened cheeks. Hearing that makes me very happy, Hisao. I would be glad to stay with you. Maybe it would be good to slow things down a bit compared to before. We still have school after all, and our exams. Ooh. She gives a mischievous giggle, which proves to be contagious. be a good idea indeed. Do you think you'll fare well in your exams? It's only one day until they arrive, as you say. I probably should have studied more, but I think I've got a good enough head to manage. That said, I had to bat off Misha and Shizune. Is your class as worried about the exams as mine? She lets out an exasperated sigh, all but confirming it. I'm thankful for the atmosphere becoming a bit lighter. I think so. I've already been asked for help by 2 of my classmates, and there'll no doubt be more. Think of it as your first training in being a teacher, maybe? That's probably a good way to think of it. On that note, how are you faring in your English studies? I remember it was far from your strongest subject, and the few sentences you memorized to speak to my mother aren't likely to help. Damn, right on the mark. You got me. If you don't mind, would you be able to possibly help in that regard, please? It would be my pleasure to help you, Hisao, but in exchange... She lowers her eyebrows at me, her coquettish nature tentatively coming to the fore. No problem at all. You'd be better off with some help in your studies, though. She beams a smile at me, one of girlish victory that nearly makes me blush. I get the feeling she's aware of how to use her face to twist my judgment, so I should probably be more on guard. Here and now, though, a study group seems like an expedient way for both of us to shore up our more lacking skills. The school bell rings out, reminding us that time isn't going to stand still. Huh, lunchtime's over already. It sure is easy to lose track of the time here. This room's so far from the other clubs and activities, not much sound can reach us. That's probably most of the reason why. A place far from the others, alone with just one person whom she loves. As Lily stands and collects her bag and cane, my thoughts are cast back to the time we spent in horny Hokkaido. Sorry. Before I go, Akira and I are having a homecoming party in my room tomorrow. Will you be able to come? Oh yeah, I'm back again. My schedule is free, so I should be able to make room in my study time to make it. Good to hear, Hisao. For what it's worth, I'm glad you're back from Scotland. Once exams are over, we should have some more time to ourselves. Holidays start soon after, too. We start the holidays with Tanabata, then? Just as we promised at the school festival. Tanabata. I don't know what that is. She brings her hand to her cheek and laughs slightly nervously, recalling the event as I silently thank myself for managing to remember. Seems odd to see her react in such a way, though it's not like I never saw her embarrassed before. I'd better be going. Farewell, Hisao. Bye. Whether it's out of habit or just a stubborn desire for one fragment of normality, I hold my hand up in farewell just as I always do. At least I'm consciously aware that I'm doing it now. I think I'm beginning to see a bigger picture than I ever have before, not only with Lily but also my life ahead. The chains of my past are finally breaking. Yay. Dry mouth. Walking up the now slightly more familiar corridor of the girls' dormitories, I can hear the faint sound of laughter coming from up ahead. It doesn't take long to identify the source of Lily's room, though the deep timbre of the female voice unmistakably belongs to her, but not to her but to her sister. I wrap my knuckles on the door with three light taps, my hand barely retreating as the door swings open. Hey, Sal! Hey, hello, Lily, Hanako. Is she in a suit in a homecoming? Like, come on. Hanako looks up tentatively, her hands buried in her oversized pink nightgown. From her side, Lily turns sideways towards the direction of my voice and smiles. It would be a flagrant lie to say I dislike the sight of her in those pajamas. I catch Akira giving me a sidelong look with a knowing grin, to which I reply with a sharp glare. She takes the hint, shrugs, and walks back to the low table in the centre of the room. As I go to join her, Lily gives me a nod of greeting and starts pouring me a cup of tea. It's nice to meet you again, Hanako. You've been getting around recently. Lily wears a look of concentration as the light brown liquid, carefully measured by her finger as always, flows from this teapot into the cup. It seems Hanako has taken up helping one of the people in your class with the newspaper club. Naomi, I think? Hanako gives an affirmative nod. Even after spending 2 months in the class, I still have trouble remembering the names of those students I rarely talk with. It takes me a few mental contortions to connect the name with a face, but I eventually remember that the girl that sits beside Hanako at the back of the class. Naomi Inui. I imagine, because that name's a full name, I have to remember it. A fairly average-looking girl, except for her bleached blonde hair. Given her upbeat and straightforward personality, Naomi may have seen an opening to poach Hanako for a club when she inquired about joining one. Either way, it's nice to see Hanako broadening her horizons. When I first met her, the idea of her joining a club with anyone but Lily would have seemed utterly laughable. That explains how busy you've been. Enjoying it?
It's really interesting.
As always, Hanako's far from being talkative. Some things never change, and it seems that Hanako's personality is one of them. She'll always be one to shy away from being overly social. Warned by the sound of the crockery against the table as Lily gently places my drink in front of me, I thank her and take a long sip. Hanako and Lily are attending to their own, and Akira is quaffing a mug of strong-smelling black coffee.
You're a lucky bastard, Hisao.
Huh? I can't help grimacing at a teasing smile, still visible around the edges of the mug pressed to her lips.
Seeing my sister in her pajamas, there's a lot of men out there who'd like to be where you are.
I've seen a lot more than that.
Yeah, I've seen a lot more than that of her, not that I'd admit it.
Akira.
Hey, I'm just teasing.
She leans over to me as much as she can, whispering with a sly grin written on her face.
And Hanako too, you perv.
Hey, it was her idea.
We both look over to her face turned to the ground and her hands fidgeting in the lap of her nightgown.
If it's Hisao, I don't mind. This could be bad. I know Hanako's altogether too innocent to bother reading too much into such a thing, but the expression Akira directs at me is positively stormy. Akira, please. It seems Lily can sense Akira's sudden change in aura just as well as I, even without seeing it for herself. Akira slowly walks away from me, like an attack dog leashed by its owner in the nick of time. I breathe a sigh of relief. I can't think of a more appropriate time to try and change topics than around now. If you don't mind me asking, Akira, what do you do for a living? I've never seen you out of that suit.
Thinking about what to do with yourself after school's over, eh? I'm a lawyer, for the most part. I work in the legal department of the Japanese branch of our family's company. The most boring possible answer, I suppose. Law's a pretty dry subject to most people. Kinda. Oi, you're not supposed to agree.
Lily gives an amused giggle while holding her teacup and saucer, Hanako quickly joining her. This friendly atmosphere between everyone is something I'd missed while Lily and Akira were on their trip. While the dealings I had with Hanako didn't help, I think just not having Lily around changed the mood. It's nice to be back. I missed you, Hisao. And you, Hanako. Same goes for the both of us. I'm guessing your classmates were happy to see you back. In a manner of speaking, yes. Akira's amused snort shows she's well aware of Lily's attitude towards such figures of speech. I imagine she'd have to be, given how long they've been together. Did you have fun in Scotland? For a moment I wonder why she's asking. It's having been quite a while since they came back, but then I remember everything that happened. We've simply not had time to look back. What with the exams and our Hokkaido trip. Lily's face goes distant for a moment, and the fact that Akira's first reaction is to look over to her sister doesn't escape me. Nonetheless, she quickly collects herself. It was nice. We hadn't met our family in such a long time. It was a wonderful reunion.
Yeah, I guess I was right. Their house being beachside was the best part, though.
From her dismissive tone, I get the feeling Akira doesn't like their family as much as Lily does. You only like that because you finally had time to play around.
Just because I'm the better swimmer.
I don't take after the athletic side of the family, that's all.
Your body looks like it does. Ooh. Well, you can take heart in the fact that you got the height genes at least. And the bust genes.
That's not really the right kind of thing to say around others.
Though Lily pretends to scold Akira, she does so with an unmistakable, slightly cheeky grin on her face. I doubt Akira really minds that, judging from her nonchalant expression. While I don't either, Hanako's looking down and blushing furiously beside me. The sisters' antics aside, their parents really do lead a bourgeois lifestyle. It seems utterly divorced from the life that Lily and Akira have lived until now. I suppose practicality must have made the decision for them. I have come from such a wealthy and well-connected lineage to have come from a wealthy and only adds to the almost noble air Lily seems to have. Though it's a small wonder none of it seems to have rubbed off onto Akira. They really are as little alike as siblings could be. Their only similarity seems to be their shared confidence, which can be both endearing and a headache at times. Most of the night continues much the same, with Hanako eventually leaving the Sato sisters and me to ourselves, as she heads back to her dorm room for a rest. For a while, only the barely audible sound from Lily's teacup and saucer can occasionally be heard as she slowly drinks. The silence is strained as Lily and I wait for the elephant in the room to be addressed. So... Lily dutifully puts her cup down, giving her sister her undivided attention. With Lily and me on one side of the table and Akira at the other, this almost feels like a judge passing down a verdict. I hear that you two are going out now. I glance sideways at Lily to confirm her as a source of Akira's knowledge. She gives a gentle nod to Akira, which I mirror in affirmation. Deciding that this is the proper time and place to do so, and Akira being the closest figure to a parent Lily's had for much of her life, I bow deeply with my hands on the floor before me and my head very nearly the same. I'll take good care of your sister, Akira, I promise you. See, he's a lovely young gentleman. She must have heard my voice coming from a lower position than usual. I slowly bring myself back up, my eyes tentatively look into Akira from under my brow. To tell the truth, I very much doubt my suited judgment will raise any objections. She's definitely the type to make her disapproval of others well known, something that leads her a measure of respect in my eyes. The old-fashioned kind, huh? Well, she's the kind of person I guess you'd go for. I don't have a problem with it, and I wish you two the best. Even though I didn't like it, I couldn't really do anything anyway. I offered a nod of appreciation to her as Lily gives a small sigh of relief. Likely more out of duty than actual belief Akira might have had any problems with us being together. I do wonder, though, how's the rest of the family going to take it? Particularly the part residing at Yamaku? Have you told her? What? Wait, there's someone here that's related? Smiles turn to grimaces as Akira grins downright evilly. Those closest know how to twist the knife best, after all. Oh, she means Shizune, right? Putting up with it may be the best term for the situation. Don't you agree, Hisao? Yeah, that sounds about right. At least she's being reasonable about it. Good to hear. That girl could be a handful at the best of times. We sent a few messages back and forth during and just after the trip, and she was already busting my chop for seeing my boyfriend when we came back. After leaving Hideaki for so long, she really does care for the little guy. I cast my mind back to Shizune's odd reaction after telling her about our relationship, but decided not to bring it up. It's no doubt simply born of their mutual antipathy, and Akira's comments only back that up. Well then, that's settled. Gotta get back to work early tomorrow, so I'd better be off. She rises from the table with a grunt, her hand on her knee to push herself up. I just notice Akira's eyes lingering on Lily for a couple of seconds before turning away, as she begins to take her leave. As she walks out the door, she stops and looks up thoughtfully before turning to us one last time. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to tell you. Use protection every time. I gag violently on the tea in my mouth, contrary to my own. Lady's composure holds perfectly as she seems entirely unfazed and kind of impressed. We are, don't worry. Atta girl. See yas! With that, she turns and strides away, a hand held high as she disappears in the darkened hallway, closing the door behind her. The most reaction I can muster is flopping forwards onto the table, completely drained of energy and truly exhausted by her. Lily's ability to hold her own against that suited devil is something I admire. She really is incredibly blunt. I don't think I'll ever be able to keep up with your sister's energy. As I feel Lily's soft hand come to a rest on my own, I roll my head to the side to see her gently smiling. For a long time, we simply sit beside each other silently. Giving her unquestionably unusual height, she's pretty much exactly as tall as I am. Probably a couple of centimeters higher, if anything. Like this, she appears even taller. The feeling of her pale, soft hand against mine is a pleasant one, as is the sight of the thin, silken pajamas she wears, showing her curves and collarbone. You do get on well, though, even if you do say that. I guess, you two are a lot more alike than I first thought when I met you. Then it's a good thing I quickly stopped you from going after her, isn't it? Though she jokes about it, my assessment of my ability to keep up with Akira, even physically or mentally, was quite in earnest. Lily's slow pace and ladylike, almost motherly nature is perhaps the single thing that helped me most in my first weeks at Yamaku. Come to think of it. Wait, since when were we using protection? As I give a curious look to my side, Lily's cheeks puff out as she huffs at me. Unlike you, I remembered. The packet is in the cupboard next to the sink. So I'm not the only one of us that takes a pill. In hindsight, I feel rather thoughtless for not remembering it at all and leaving it to Lily. Looking over to the cupboard she mentions, I notice again the knee-high piles of books around us that were here the other times I visited. For the most part, they're lined up against the wall to give a little more room around the table. Why don't you get a bookshelf for your books? It's odd to see books just piled around, especially given that your room looks so neat and orderly otherwise. They're easier to find this way. I know exactly which pile each book is in. Wouldn't you still know that after putting each set on a different shelf? That may be, but she seems not immune to bouts of laziness after all. You have so many of them, it's kind of a shame we can't share our book sets despite both of us reading so much. She gives a short giggle. Come to think of it, why do you order your book through Yuko? I imagine there'd be plenty of sites that you could order books in Braille from, especially in English Braille. There are a lot of text-to-speech programs too. She turns her head slightly away from me, which strikes me as somewhat surprising. I'm just not all that good with computers. I'm all right with typewriters and braillers, but that's about it. Her tone almost makes me chuckle. She's a prideful person, so admitting something like that must be difficult. So, Lily's the low-tech kind of person. Given her old-fashioned personality, it's not really a stunning surprise. I wouldn't worry about it. A lot of people aren't really that good with them, so it's not that unusual. That's unusual. Now she's even more depressed. It feels like I'm twisting the knife rather than healing her wounds. With a bit of squirming, I shuffle my way closer to her, tentatively putting one hand around her waist to hug her. I'm still not really used to this kind of physical affection, but Lily seems to like it. Aw. Cute! Lily smiles as she turns to face me, a kiss being the reward for giving in to her. She draws me in, brushing my upper lip with hers before pressing it against her. I think that screenshot right there. Hang on. That's definitely screenshotty right there. Let's go. This way, every one of our senses is filled with her. My sense is filled with her. The barely perceptible scent of her hair, her taste as her tongue fleetingly touches mine, the tenderness of her lips, the image of her filling my mind, the total silence apart from her faint breath. We may have kissed before, but even if this is more of a kiss of simple affection than anything, it's still a new and pleasant sensation. Judging from her vivid blush, she pulls back. It's obvious she feels the same as I do. Even if we're entirely alone, it still feels a little embarrassing to open up to each other this much. If we take everything day by day, I think that would be for the best. Small steps, right? Yeah, just small steps. We have plenty of time to be together, even after the school year is over. As long as we move together, I think everything will work out okay. Neither of us is going anywhere soon, after all. There's so much foreshadowing in this game. For now, I'm just thankful for this small moment in time we can spend together. Cute! Super cute! Dee, 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 dee. I stand unmoving in front of the door to the nurse's office for what feels like at least a dozen minutes or so. It's not like I never entered the small beige room before, nor is it because of any feeling of childlike anxiety over the visit. Maybe it's because the nurse's office is akin to a confessional, an admission that my body is flawed. The knowledge that such a fact is kept entirely confidential between the nurse and me hardly lessens the feeling. Remembering that the bell to signal the end of lunch break will soon soon. Wow, we'll sound soon. I give a sigh and open the door. The burden will stay with me just a while longer. Well, now, if it isn't Nakai, good to see you. Or bad, I guess, considering that I'm a nurse. He gives a small laugh and muses his little joke. I find his humour lacking and somewhat off, but the fact that he can make light of such a situation is perhaps comforting, or at least distracting. But we have to end the episode. We're actually on time this time. Oh, okay, so I mean, this is like the introductory episode, I guess, to school. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching. If you have any positive or negative comments to make, please let me know so I can improve these videos for you. Also, if you can like and share, so I know that you guys like these videos, and I'll continue to do more. If you have any recommendations for any other visual novels or games that are like this, please let me know so I can get to work on them. And yeah, I will see you guys. I will try to get an episode out tomorrow, though I got a very busy day, right? But I'll try my best, okay? So I'll see you next time for episode 19, either tomorrow or the next year, right? Owl is out now, though, so I'll see you soon. Goodbye.